Hi, it's Danielle. This is my perfume journal where I document my love of perfume. From the July sniff along, I have 7 perfumes to tell you about today, and they are all perfumes with a mint note. I have always loved mint in perfumes. My all-time favorite perfume, Nikki de Saint Fall from 1982, has a mint note in that kitchen sink of notes. And as a fan of really green perfumes overall, I think mint just adds something really wonderful to a composition that I cannot get enough of. I love a sweet mint. I love a toothpastey mint. I love a soft fuzzy mint. I love a bold mint. All of the different ways that mint shows up in a perfume, I'm totally here for it. And among these 7 perfumes that we have today, I was really surprised by some of the very harmonious ways that mint can couple itself with other notes. So I'm super excited to tell you about this fantastic group of scents. First up, we have Menthe Fraiche from Heeley. Now, Heeley is a brand that I already love. In a recent video, I talked about using up my sample of Note de Yuzu, and that perfume was just an absolutely great delight. James Heeley is the founder and the nose. He is a designer who kind of like expanded his creative endeavors into the world of scent. I have been impressed with all of the Heeley perfumes that I've tried so far. Cardinal is a magnificent, elegant incense. Hippie Rose is this gorgeous rose patchouli. Iris de Nuit is like a classic Rudy Iris Orris ambrette scent. Palm, which also goes by the name Cocobello, is a lush tropical floral coconut perfume. All of his perfumes are really well designed. They are well crafted fragrances. They come in these very simple, elegant bottles with beautiful graphic design. I feel like every element of this perfume line is carefully considered, and I just think it's an excellent house. So Menthe Fraiche opens with that classic toothpastey kind of vibe. Among the group that was sniffing this month, we interpreted things like shower gel, Irish Spring soap, and mint chewing gum. There is both peppermint and spearmint in the opening of this perfume, which gives an extra blast of mintiness in the first spray. And then once it's on skin, the sweetness of the mint begins to come out. The mid of this perfume includes green tea and lotus, and we definitely experienced a bit of that like watery aspect of a lotus flower in this perfume. Personally, I loved this after about an hour, 2 hours on the skin. The mintiness went from cold to cool to warm, which is what I think brought out the sweetness more, as if the perfume was like melting into your skin. And one of the things that I really appreciate most about James Heeley's perfumes is that he has this knack for taking notes that would normally be kind of fleeting, and he finds a way to make them last without going into that kind of aroma chemical smell that just sort of like assaults your olfactory system. I think this was the first mint perfume that we sniffed in the sniff along, and it was a very strong start indeed. Next is a perfume by a brand I had not tried before. It's called Matcha Latte, and it's by Kuoca. So first up, a moment of appreciation for the bottle. Isn't this just beautiful? I get like so excited when I see a brand launch a perfume in a beautiful bottle. Speaking of which, I saw a post on Instagram recently that was comparing beautiful bottles of yesteryear to the bottle designs that the perfumes are in today, pointing out kind of like these classic perfumes that were in these gorgeous vessels designed exactly and specifically for that scent. Now they've been moved into these like kind of like bland uniform bottles. It made me a little bit sad to see like the perfume bottle version of Grage. I love the variety and the beauty and the artistry of some of the old perfume bottles. Take things like Insolence from Guerlain, Samsara, Isatis, and now it's like they've all been forced to wear a uniform for the rest of their days. It's not that serious, but I do love a beautiful perfume bottle, and I think this is a very beautiful perfume bottle. So this was an interesting perfume because The first spray of this elicited a big ooh from the group. I do not think we were expecting something really milky and sweet to accompany that mint note. This perfume has, I think, an amazing opening. I immediately yelled out, "Who wants to go in on a split for this one?" But then I was kindly reminded that I was supposed to be decluttering and downsizing. So I pulled back on my announcement that we should all go in on a split of this perfume. Usually, when you think about a matcha latte, or I should say, when I think about a matcha latte, I think of a cold latte. You get that like grassy green matcha paired with a sweet milk over ice. And so, what would be more lovely for a beverage like that than a nice mint garnish? So, in this perfume, the sandalwood gives like a cocoa-y vibe. So, instead of getting cold matcha latte, this smells more like a hot matcha latte that someone has melted a chocolate mint candy into, like one of those Andes candies. So, overall, I would say that this perfume garnered some very mixed reactions from the group. I rather liked it, and I think what I would like to do is finish up my sample in colder weather to see how it fares. So, next up is a perfume from 2017. This is St. Julep from Imaginary Authors. And just as you would expect, this is very much a Southern Americana mint julep kind of scent with notes of sugar, mint, magnolia, bourbon, and something called Grisalva, which is a captive molecule from IFF, one of the big fragrance houses, that gives a bit of a like leathery ambergris vibe to the composition. So the story behind this perfume is not related to the Kentucky Derby, as you might think. Instead, the imaginary author tells a tale of a church in Mississippi that functioned a little bit like a speakeasy. So the scent is intended to conjure images of maybe like a mason jar filled with moonshine that's been loaded up with sugar and a bunch of muddled mint. There is definitely a strong booziness to this one, more booziness than mint, I think. And that Grisalva note, that captive molecule, really comes through loud and clear in the dry down. And for that reason alone, this perfume wasn't for me. If it did not have that Grisalva note, I think I really would have loved this. The other thing that was interesting to me about this perfume is I could actually taste it. It went straight through my nose to the back of my throat and into my mouth. And then on my skin, it did something that reminded me a little bit of like wet towels that have been left in the washing machine too long. I don't know what that's about, but that's what it smelled like on me. I would really like to smell this on someone else because I think it would play out very, very pleasantly on another person than the way that it plays out on me. And so this one was well loved by the group. Unfortunately, it just didn't work on my skin personally. I don't know if I'd call this one polarizing, but the one that elicited very strong reactions from the group was 9.1 Komorebi from Pierre Guillaume. So we learned in the sniff along, thank you, Heather, that the word Komorebi in Japanese refers to the like dappled sunlight that leaks through the trees and leaves those like little beautiful pools of light and shadow on the forest floor. And the word Komorebi is formed exactly from three words in Japanese: tree, leek, and sun. And I just think that is such a beautiful inspiration for a perfume. So, our initial impressions of this perfume elicited responses like medicinal, potting soil, wet grass, cedar. So, clearly, there was an earthiness that was coming through that was very much intended based on the name Komorebi, and that is translating directly to the wearer or the sniffer. The mint is most definitely part of the opening burst, along with a kind of sappiness from a tree resin note. And then as the perfume settles down, there's reseda, which is a floral note that brings like a grass green leafiness to a perfume. There's mimosa and black currant, and all of that definitely gives an impression of that wet, slightly floral aroma of a forest and its floor. And then the chosen base notes are interesting. They are hazel, oak, and tonka, which I think is a really interesting combination that just kind of like amplifies the earthiness of this perfume. This perfume, of all the minty perfumes, was the one that we kept coming back to even days later. It's one of those perfumes that like calls you to explore it further. It's a shapeshifter, and it's always seeming to offer something different and new to experience. So next we have 1979 New Wave from Les Bains Guerbois. And the name of this perfume alone had this Gen Xer intrigued. Honestly, this could have been notes of like rotting vegetables, and I would have been like, I have to smell that. I have to have it. So I had to actually look up the connection between the name of this perfume and what I was smelling, because at first I wasn't getting what was like new wave about this. New wave to me was the bridge between punk music of the mid to late 70s and the mainstream pop top 40 hits of the mid to late 80s. So the brand itself paints this picture. Another night at Bain Douche, another young English band on stage, the charismatic lead singer close to a trance, a legendary performance, a small enthusiastic crowd, girls and boys riding waves of emotions, sounds of fragrances melding together yet distinct. Peppermint, orris, cedarwood, new romantics. Is this a dark or cheerful view of the world? Could be both. Okay, I love that copy. That is very much my experience of the 1980s, especially when New Wave was at its height. We were seeing bands like The Cure, Simple Minds, The Violent Femmes, Talk Talk, The Psychedelic Furs, The Fix, INXS, Howard Jones, in these little tiny intimate clubs and theaters. We were seeing them at local park pavilions when these bands were like just emerging, just making it big, and it was an amazing experience. Now, is peppermint and orris, are they the scents that I associate with this time and this experience? Not really, but I get the concept that they're going for here. The idea of this like juxtaposition of dark and cheerful, of optimistic and melancholy, that is basically Gen X in a nutshell. And my side of Gen X, especially, that is our experience in life. We are the generation that holds this like underlying belief that people are good, that there's hope in the world, that music and art is beautiful and it reflects the human experience. But we are also a bunch of miserable curmudgeons who have clawed our way through the world with no help, no safety nets, and definitely no guidance. So, yeah, I can see all of that here in this perfume. The concept is real and it works. Now, on the olfactory side of things, here is what we smelled at first: rubber bands, the nostalgia of a grandfather's dental office, toothpaste and epoxy for molding teeth, double mint gum, a Mr. Sketch mint scented marker. So, as you can see, this was a perfume that evoked many impressions, and no wonder for that. It's a Dominique Ropillon. So, a perfumer of his pedigree and experience is going to create something that elicits a response. For me, I found the combination of mint and orris to be absolutely wonderful. And as the perfume settled down, that musky, breathy iris just held on with just a whisper of the freshness of the mint hanging around. So this perfume to me is totally splurge worthy, and I actually think it's well worth the $225 price point for 100 mils. And I almost never say that. So Mont La Jolie by Astier de Villatte was next in the lineup. I had talked about this one before on my channel, so it was really cool to be able to smell this one in real time with other perfume enthusiasts to hear their responses to it. So whereas other mint perfumes in the sniff-along featured mint as like the lead singer, the mint in this perfume is more part of the ensemble. This perfume has basil, eucalyptus, fig, mate, bergamot, blackcurrant, ginger, lemon, cedar, and jasmine. So it feels bright and zingy and so green. It's like a whole garden just exploding into your nose. It is snapped stems and leaves and herbs that are rubbed between your fingers to bring out the aromas of their oils. The fig and the currant bring some sweetness, but only just a little bit, because at its core, this perfume is the greenest of the greens. It is so fresh, it is so cooling and natural, and I think the bottle is so gorgeous. So Astier Villatte is first and foremost a ceramics shop, and it has branched out into the world of perfume, and they have a number of incredible offerings in their line. And this perfume comes in 30, 50, and 100 ml sizes. And to that, I say kudos to the brand for offering us a variety of sizes. We perfume enthusiasts appreciate that more than you know. So the last perfume in the lineup today is one from my personal favorite brands, even if I do moan and groan about their atomizers. I do love their perfumes. It is Thundra from Profumum Roma. So Thomas, or Ouch110, as we know him here on YouTube, has just done a most and least favorite Profumum Roma perfumes video on his channel. I highly recommend checking that out if you want to learn more about this Italian brand and hear some of his favorite and least favorite choices. I love his channel. I've been watching it for years, and it's a really great video introduction to this brand if you've never tried Profumum Roma before. So over many years, I have collected several perfumes from Profumum Roma. They are all of really exceptional quality. I love their perfumes. I will say that the experience of shopping in their stores is a little hit or miss. Sometimes you will get an amazing sales associate who is genuinely excited to talk to you about their line and very kind and wonderful to work with, and other times it can kind of be a snob fest. But fortunately, now you can find their perfumes online in the US at ScentSplit and Lucky Scent. So anyway, the vast majority of their perfumes have just 3 notes. And in Thundra, it is mint, patchouli, and white musk. Now, I hadn't ever smelled this one in stores before, and so I was curious about how mint and patchouli would combine. And it turns out they are fabulous together, in my opinion. This is an earthy, warm patchouli. There's nothing like hippie, Grateful Dead-y about this. I read a review of this perfume that used the word loamy to describe the patchouli, and I think that is just the perfect word for it, loamy. I found this to actually be a very relaxing and meditative scent. Patchouli kind of does that for me when it's done right. It's very calming when it's like an earthy, chocolatey patchouli. And I feel like when you hear people describe patchouli as chocolatey, what I think that means is that you're getting like the dark, smooth, toothy aspects of the patchouli rather than the sharp, piercing ones. So when you pair that chocolatey patchouli with the mint, you end up with this like beautifully harmonious yin and yang kind of experience with these 2 hero notes in perfect balance with one another. So it's going to be hard for me to put these in any kind of order. So instead of ordering them, let's go back to my Gen X ranking system, and I'll place them on the Gen X ladder in the order that we smelled in. Okay, so the Heeley Menthe, this was rad. Rad perfumes for me are worthy of a purchase from any size, from like a 10 ml decant up to a small 30 ml bottle, in my opinion. Overall, I think Heeley as a brand is rad. It's a rad brand. Okay, not Matcha Latte. My initial impression of this one was on the border of rad and tubular, but after I wore it and let it settle for a while, it actually ended up being a gnarly perfume for me in the end. And to me, gnarly perfumes are worthy of a 5 to 10 ml decant. So next up we have St. Julep. This was a righteous perfume. Though I did not prefer this on myself, it is not grody, not in the least. Usually I would finish a sample of a righteous perfume, but since this one, I like the scent, but just not on me, I'm going to save my sample for someone else to enjoy. 9.1 Komorebi. This perfume to me is gnarly. It does have the potential to move up into the rad category. Right now, I have to say, I don't think this is one I will wear myself, but it is one that I will revisit again and again to study and explore further, as this is like one of those perfumes that never stops surprising you. 1979 New Wave is so rad. I would definitely go for a 10 ml decant of this one to add to my collection. I don't think I would need a whole entire bottle of this, but I can see myself craving this from time to time and wanting to reach for it. Mont La Jolie. This one is tubular. This perfume and several perfumes from this brand actually are ones that I would forego all purchases for a month in order to save up for a 100 ml bottle of this. A 100 ml bottle is $205. I usually cap my single bottle purchases at around $100, $150 max. So if I am willing to spend $205 on a single bottle, it has to be this good, and it is this good. And finally, Thundra from Profumum Roma. I'm going to call this one tubular. This and the Astier de Villatte were neck and neck for me, but in the end, Jolie does eke out Profumum Roma by a single mint leaf. Still, Thundra is an outstanding perfume of exceptional quality and something unique and different from anything else in my collection. But at over $300 for a 100 ml bottle, I draw the line. I draw the line. And this is where I have ended up buying the 18 ml bottles for like $100, which to me, that's way too much for 18 mils. But these were vacation purchases, and we all know that I lose my mind on vacation. So I have to say, this is where I think Scent Split is awesome. And I am not sponsored or paid by them to say this. I just really love them. A 9 ml decant of this perfume at Scent Split is $43.99, which is still less per mil than the branded 18 ml spray. And the quality of Scent Split's decants, in my opinion, is unmatched. Actually, look at this, for example. Okay, on the left are branded travel sizes of one designer and two niche perfumes, and they are the crappiest of the crappies when it comes to travels. On the flip side, the 9 ml decant, this one I actually just purchased from Scent Split. It's Rosa Antiqua from Auntie, and it is amazing. The glass is thick and heavy, and there's like a little bit of extra weighted glass at the bottom that keeps it from ever falling over. Those branded ones fall over constantly, and it's nicely labeled. It's just excellent quality. And so I will take Scent Split over the actual brand any day of the week when it comes to their decants and their samples, because I feel like their quality, their presentation, and their customer service is like unmatched. So just a little unsponsored, totally personal opinion plug for Scent Split, because I have had nothing but amazing luck with everything I have ever gotten from them. And so they would definitely get my $43.99 for a 9 ml decant of Thundra. So going back to the perfumes, Thundra is tubular and Jolie tubular to the max. So those are my rankings of all of the perfumes that we smelled in the Minty Fresh Sniff Along. So there are 7 perfumes with a mint note, a huge variety of scent profiles, brands, styles. Hope you enjoyed hearing about these. And I can't stress this enough. If you are just getting into perfume, if you are a moderate perfume enthusiast, or if you are scent obsessed to the max like me, I so recommend selecting a note or a scent profile and getting yourself a handful of samples to smell in one sitting. Make sure you take nose breaks as you go. You will pull out nuances and characteristics in the perfumes that you're smelling that you might not if you just smelled them on their own or in a group of other varied samples. It is such a great way to train your nose and just build up your olfactive reference library. So thank you so much for watching. Thanks for spending your time here with me. Thanks for chatting perfumes with me in the comments. If you have smelled any of these perfumes, I would love to know your thoughts about them. Hope you have a minty fresh day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.